Commander James stood tall on the bridge of his Imperial flagship, the Star Conqueror. His golden uniform sparkled under the bright lights as he stared at the main screen. After 20 years of service in the Galactic Empire's expansion fleet, he thought he had seen everything. He was wrong. "Sir, we've detected primitive spacecraft near the third planet," reported Officer Smith, his fingers dancing over the holographic controls. "They appear to be using basic metal alloys and chemical propulsion." James smiled. This was exactly what he had been waiting for. Another primitive civilization to add to the Empire's glory. The scout fleet had discovered this solar system just days ago, and already they had found intelligent life. Primitive, yes, but intelligent enough to build spaceships. "How many vessels?" James asked, straightening his already perfect uniform. 20 small ships, sir. They appear to be in a defensive formation around their planet." Smith paused, checking his readings again. "They're using what looks like primitive radar to track us." James almost laughed. Radar? These beings were barely out of their Stone Age by Imperial standards. This would be the easiest conquest of his career. "Send the standard Imperial greeting," he ordered. "Make sure to translate it into all known basic frequencies. Even primitives should be able to receive at least one of them." The message was simple and had worked countless times before. "Greetings, lesser civilization. You face the mighty Galactic Empire. Your technology is primitive, your defenses inadequate. Surrender now and accept our generous offer of vassalage. Resistance will result in immediate destruction." James waited for the panic, for the desperate pleas, for the immediate surrender that always followed when primitive cultures realized they faced a superior civilization. Instead, his communications officer's face turned red with confusion. "Sir," Officer Brown said, "we're receiving a response, but it must be a mistake." "Put it on the main screen," James ordered. 3 simple letters appeared, repeated across every frequency the Empire had used. "Lol." James frowned. "What does this mean? Is it a surrender code?" The bridge crew worked frantically to decode the message. After several minutes, Brown spoke up again. "Sir, it appears to be an ancient Earth text expression. It means they're laughing at us." Laughing. James felt his face grow hot. In all his years, no civilization had ever laughed at the Empire's arrival. "Send the message again. They clearly don't understand their situation." The message was sent again. This time, the response came with a small addition. "Lol. Nice light show. Want to see ours?" Before James could respond, his tactical officer shouted in alarm. "Sir, the primitive vessels. They're powering up something, but our sensors can't identify what kind of weapons they're using." "Impossible," James snapped. "Our sensors can detect any known form of energy weapon. Prepare to fire a warning shot. Show them what real power looks like." The Star Conqueror's main gun charged up, its green energy beam lancing out toward one of the Earth vessels. It was a precise shot, calculated to pass close enough to scare them, but not actually hit. The beam never reached its target. Instead, it simply disappeared a few kilometers from the Earth ship. "Sir," Smith's voice trembled slightly. "They appear to be drinking something while watching us. The sensors detect some kind of hot liquid in cups." James stared at the screen in disbelief. The Earth ships hadn't moved, hadn't raised shields, if they even had them, hadn't done anything except sit there. And now their crews were having drinks. A new message appeared on the screen. "Coffee break time. Feel free to try something else while we finish our drinks. Your light show is providing excellent entertainment." For the first time in his Imperial career, Commander James felt a bead of sweat roll down his back. Something was very, very wrong here, and he had a sinking feeling that his perfect record of planetary conquests was about to change. Admiral Thompson sat in his comfortable chair aboard the Earth defense ship Coffee Break, his feet propped up on his desk. He watched the Imperial ships through his window with the same interests someone might show a group of ants building a hill. They sent another message, "Sir," Lieutenant Walker said, trying not to laugh. "Still demanding our surrender." Thompson took a sip from his coffee mug, which had "World's Okayest Admiral" printed on it. "You know," he said, "when we first spotted their empire 30 years ago, we thought they might actually be advanced. Remember that, Walker?" "Yes, sir," Walker grinned. "That's why we built these ships, to look primitive on the outside. But they're still using nuclear fusion. They haven't even figured out zero-point energy." The bridge crew of the coffee break looked completely relaxed. Captain Rogers was playing a game of solitaire on his holographic display, while Engineer Peters was writing a report about why the Empire's weapons were about as threatening as a water pistol. "Should we tell them, sir?" Walker asked. "About how we've been watching them for decades. About how their mighty empire has been living in our shadow all this time." Thompson shook his head, taking another sip of coffee. "Let's have some fun first. Send them a cat video." Walker's eyes widened. "Sir, are you sure? The last civilization we sent cat videos to immediately surrendered because they thought it was some kind of psychological warfare." "Exactly," Thompson smiled. "Let's see how the Empire handles Mr. Whiskers playing with a laser pointer." As Walker prepared the video, Thompson thought back to humanity's real first contact with the Empire. It had been a small scout ship that crossed into Earth's detection range. Instead of announcing themselves, humans simply watched, curious to see what the aliens would do. What they discovered was both amusing and a bit sad. The Empire, for all its grand claims, was using technology that Earth had surpassed centuries ago. Their fastest ships were slower than Earth's cargo vessels. Their strongest weapons wouldn't scratch the paint on Earth's ships. Their advanced computers had less processing power than an Earthchild's learning tablet. "Sir," Rogers called out, looking up from his card game. "The Empire is charging their main weapons. Should we turn on the shields?" Thompson waved his hand dismissively. "Why waste the energy? The absorbers will handle it. Those beams are about as dangerous as a flashlight." Sure enough, when the Empire fired, their energy beams simply disappeared into the invisible absorption field around Earth's ships. The field converted the enemy weapons' fire into extra power for the coffee makers. "Fresh coffee, anyone?" Thompson offered, holding up his now refilled mug. "Courtesy of the Empire's attack." The bridge crew laughed. They had been trained for serious combat, prepared to face real threats. Instead, they got this: an empire that thought itself mighty while using technology that belonged in a museum. "Sir," Walker spoke up again, "they're sending another message. They're demanding to know what we did with their weapon fire." Thompson stood up, stretching lazily. "Tell them we used it to heat our coffee. And send them the cat video. Make sure to include the one where the cat knocks the glass off the table." As the video transmitted, Thompson looked at his crew. They were the best Earth had to offer, trained to face any threat. Instead, they were having the most relaxing day of their careers. "You know what the funny part is," Thompson said to no one in particular. "We're not even their biggest problem. Wait until they try to scan our ships and realize they can't even understand how they work. Their sensors are so basic, they'd probably think we're powered by coal or something." The crew laughed again as a new message appeared from the Empire. "What is this creature? And why is it a TTCK in a transparent container?" "Send them more cat videos," Thompson ordered with a grin. "All of them. Let's see how their mighty empire handles the full power of Earth's feline warriors." Commander James was not having a good day. First, the primitives had laughed at him. Then they had sent him strange videos of small furry creatures. Now his entire fleet was ready for their biggest attack, and his crew was still trying to figure out why those furry Earth creatures were so obsessed with knocking things off flat surfaces. "All ships report ready, sir," Officer Smith announced. "Our combined firepower should be enough to destroy a small moon." James nodded grimly. "Fire everything we have." Let's see them laugh at this. The space around the Imperial fleet lit up as hundreds of energy beams, plasma torpedoes, and atomic missiles launched toward the Earth ships. The attack was beautiful in a destructive way, lighting up space like 1,000 suns. Meanwhile, on the Earth ship coffee break, Lieutenant Walker spoke up. "Sir, they're shooting at us again. This time with, well, everything." Admiral Thompson looked up from his crossword puzzle. "Everything. How thoughtful of them." "Peters, how's our energy storage looking?" Engineer Peters checked his readings. "We were running a bit low after making all that coffee, sir. This should top us up nicely." He paused. "Though they really should work on their aim. Half of these shots would miss even if we didn't have absorbers." The massive Imperial attack reached the Earth ships and simply vanished. Not a single explosion. Not a single impact. The energy was quietly absorbed and converted to power, while the physical missiles disappeared into small portals that Earth ships used for recycling space junk. Back on the Imperial flagship, James stared at his screen in horror. "What happened?" "Report." "Sir," Smith's voice shook, "all weapons just disappeared. And sir, the Earth ships, they're still playing those cat videos. They've started something called a playlist." James slammed his fist on his chair. "Impossible. Our targeting computers are the most advanced in the galaxy. They use quantum algorithms that took our best scientists hundreds of years to develop." At that moment, a message appeared from the Earth ships. "Your targeting computer is cute. We used something similar in our children's gaming consoles about 200 years ago. Would you like an upgrade?" "Sir," Officer Brown called out, "I'm detecting. Are they having a party?" Indeed, through the Imperial ship's viewers, they could see lights flashing inside the Earth vessels. Music began broadcasting on all frequencies, something the humans called disco. "They're dancing, sir," Smith reported, sounding bewildered. "Right in the middle of our attack. They're dancing." James felt a headache coming on. In 20 years of service, he had never faced an enemy that responded to an all-out assault by throwing a party. On the coffee break, Thompson was teaching his crew an old Earth dance called the Robot. "You see," he explained, moving stiffly, "this is how we used to think robots would move. Before we developed actual robots, of course. Speaking of which," he turned to Walker, "send them the manual for our first-generation targeting system. The one from 300 years ago. It should help them improve their aim at least a little." "Sir," Rogers interrupted, "the Empire is charging weapons again." Thompson sighed. "Well, we could use some more coffee. And the party lights are running a bit low on power. Let them shoot." The Empire's second wave of attacks produced exactly the same result as the first, more power for the Earth ship's party. "You know what's really impressive?" Peters said, watching the Imperial ships through the window. "They haven't noticed that we haven't actually fired back once. We haven't even turned on our defensive systems. The absorbers are just our basic energy collection method." Thompson nodded, still doing the robot dance. "Some people just can't take a hint. Should we show them what our ships can really do?" "Nah," Walker replied, starting to dance too. "Let's teach them the Macarena first. Cultural exchange is important." And so, as the mighty Imperial fleet prepared for their third wave of attacks, the Earth ships began broadcasting step-by-step instructions for a dance that had annoyed parents for generations. After 3 failed attacks and an impromptu dance lesson, Commander James watched in disbelief as the Earth ships suddenly powered down their engines. The soft blue glow that had surrounded their vessels faded away. "Sir," Officer Smith almost jumped from his station. "The Earth ships are powering down. They're completely dropping their defenses." James narrowed his eyes. "It must be a trick. Scan them again." "Sir," Brown called out from communications, "we're receiving a message. It says, 'Taking a proper coffee break. Back in 15 minutes. Feel free to try capturing us if you want. Good luck.'" James straightened in his chair. Finally, a chance to show these insolent humans the true might of the Empire. Launch tractor beams, all ships, lock on, and capture those vessels. The Imperial fleet moved into position, surrounding the seemingly dormant Earth ships. Dozens of green tractor beams shot out, attempting to lock onto the human vessels. Inside the coffee break, Admiral Thompson was teaching his crew how to make the perfect cup of coffee using their old-fashioned manual brewing set. "You see," he explained, carefully pouring hot water over the ground coffee beans, "machines can make good coffee, but there's something special about doing it by hand." "Sir," Walker said, watching the Empire's tractor beams slide harmlessly off their hull, "they're trying really hard to capture us. Should we tell them why it's not working?" Thompson shook his head, focusing on his coffee. "Let them figure it out. Learning by doing is important." He carefully stirred the brewing coffee. "Besides, this is a rare Colombian blend. It deserves our full attention." Outside, the Imperial fleet was facing a problem they'd never encountered before. Their tractor beams, capable of moving small moons, simply couldn't get a grip on the Earth ships. The beams either slid off or passed right through, as if the ships weren't even there. "Impossible," James shouted, watching another attempt fail. "How are they doing this? Their ships are powered down." "Sir," Smith said hesitantly, "according to our scans, their ships, well, they might not actually be there." "What do you mean, not there? I can see them with my own eyes." "Yes, sir, but our instruments. They're saying these ships exist in multiple dimensions at once. We can only see the part they want us to see. Our tractor beams are trying to grab shadows." Inside the Earth ships, the crew was having a heated debate about coffee. "With respect, Admiral," Rogers argued, "espresso is clearly superior to drip coffee." "That's the wonderful thing about coffee," Thompson replied, setting up another manual brew. "There's no wrong way to enjoy it. Well, except for what the Empire drinks. Did you know they still use instant coffee powder?" The crew gasped in genuine horror. "Barbaric," Peters muttered, sipping his carefully brewed cup. "No wonder they're so aggressive." Walker checked the time. "Sir, our 15 minutes are almost up. The Empire has tried capturing us 47 times now. They're starting to look a bit frustrated." Thompson nodded, finishing his cup. "Send them a message. Coffee break over. By the way, your tractor beams need alignment. They're off by 0.3 degrees. Here's a manual for basic maintenance." As the Earth ships powered back up, James received the message and the manual. His face turned red as he read through it, realizing the manual was written in the style of tractor beams for beginners. "Sir," Brown reported, "the Earth ships are powering up again. And they're sending us something else. It appears to be coffee recipes." James stared at his own cup of instant coffee, suddenly feeling very self-conscious. "Delete that recipe file immediately," he ordered. But it was too late. The crew had already seen it, and whispers about French press and pour-over methods were spreading through the ship. The mighty Imperial fleet, pride of the galaxy, had just been defeated not by weapons, but by proper coffee brewing techniques. And somewhere on the coffee break, Admiral Thompson was already preparing for afternoon tea. Admiral Thompson finished his last sip of coffee and set down his world's okayest Admiral mug. After 4 hours of watching the Empire try everything from attacks to capture attempts, he decided it was time for a small demonstration. "Walker," he said, leaning back in his chair, "remember that small corvette we keep around for teaching cadets?" "The paper cut, sir." Walker grinned. "The one we use to show first-year students basic space maneuvers. That's the one. Tell them to power up. Time to show the Empire what a training ship can do." The smallest ship in Earth's fleet, barely the size of an Imperial shuttle, lit up its engines. The paper cut was commanded by Captain Miller, who had been grading cadet papers when the Empire arrived. "Sir," Miller's voice came through the comm. You want me to demonstrate using the training ship, the one we don't even let cadets touch until they've learned to tie their space boots properly. Just the basics, Miller. Nothing fancy. Maybe that little trick we use to show kids how energy fields work. On the Imperial flagship, Commander James watched the tiny Earth vessel with disdain. They're sending their smallest ship. After all our attacks, they insult us with this. Sir, Smith reported, the small vessel is, well, it's broadcasting a children's song. Something about the basics of electromagnetic fields, set to a nursery rhyme tune. Before James could respond, every system on his flagship went dark. Then, one by one, each ship in his mighty fleet lost power. Over 300 Imperial vessels, from massive battlecruisers to heavy destroyers, floated helplessly in space. What happened? James demanded, lit only by emergency lights. Some kind of electromagnetic pulse, sir, Smith replied, checking his backup tablet. But it's not like anything we've seen before. It didn't just shut us down. It reorganized our power systems. Everything's working backwards. The small Earth ship sent another message, this time with a helpful diagram. Step 1 of basic energy management for beginners. Notice how your power cores are now running in reverse. This is what happens when you don't account for quantum field interactions. Don't worry, we'll walk you through fixing it. Thompson watched from his command chair as the papercut began broadcasting repair instructions. Miller, make sure to use small words and add some fun animations. Already on it, sir, Miller replied. I'm using the same presentation we show to 6-year-olds during space camp, the one with the dancing electrons. The Imperial crew watched in a mixture of horror and fascination as cartoon characters appeared on their screens, cheerfully explaining concepts that their best scientists had never even imagined. And remember, the childlike voice narrated, energy isn't just a one-way flow. See how happy the particles are when they dance together. James stared at his screen, watching animated particles do a conga line while teaching principles that obsoleted 3 centuries of Imperial science. Sir, Brown called out, other ships are reporting their power coming back online. But, sir, our engines are now 50% more efficient. The Earth ship, they actually improved our systems while shutting us down. Thompson nodded approvingly as he watched the Imperial ships regain power. You know what the funny part is? The papercut is using technology we considered outdated 50 years ago. We keep it around purely for historical demonstrations. Should we show them what our actual combat ships can do? Walker asked. Let's not traumatize them too much in one day, Thompson replied. They're still trying to process the dancing electron cartoon. Besides, if we showed them our real technology, they'd have to rewrite all their physics textbooks. As the Imperial fleet slowly recovered, they received one final message from the tiny Earth ship. Congratulations on completing Basic Energy Management 101. Would you like to enroll in our beginner's course? We offer great student discounts, and the first lesson comes with a free proper coffee maker. James looked at his instant coffee powder, then at his newly improved engines, and for the first time in his Imperial career, he seriously considered going back to school. After the demonstration by Earth's training ship, Commander James made a decision that would change Imperial history. He asked to visit the human vessels. To his surprise, they immediately said yes and invited his entire command staff for dinner. Welcome aboard the coffee break. Admiral Thompson greeted the Imperial officers as they stepped through the docking tunnel. Don't worry about the cat. She's our ship's morale officer. James watched in confusion as a small furry creature, apparently the same type from the videos, floated past them in a personal anti-gravity bubble. That's Lieutenant Whiskers, Walker explained. She insisted on having her own gravity field. You know how cats are. The Imperial officers tried to look professional, but they couldn't help staring at everything around them. The walls seemed to shift colors based on people's moods. The floor adjusted its gravity to each person's preference. Even the air felt cleaner, fresher, more energizing. Is that Real wood? Officer Smith asked, pointing at Thompson's desk. Oh, this old thing. Thompson patted the desk. Yeah, I like antiques. Helps me remember where we came from. Most people prefer quantum-locked crystal furniture, but I'm a bit old-fashioned. James touched the desk carefully. In the Empire, wood was more precious than gold. Entire planets had been fought over for their timber. And here was Thompson, using it as casual office furniture. Would you like a tour? Thompson offered. We can start with the engine room. Peters, show them our backup power system. Engineer Peters led them to a small room containing what looked like a hamster wheel. This is our emergency backup, he said proudly. We call it the just-in-case system. It's completely mechanical. This powers your ship, James asked in disbelief. Oh no, Peters laughed. This powers the coffee maker if everything else fails. Can't risk running out of coffee in an emergency. The actual engines. He waved vaguely at what looked like an empty space. They're sort of in between dimensions right now. Had to park them sideways through reality to save space. The Imperial officers scribbled notes frantically as Peters explained concepts that seemed more like magic than science. He used simple words, but every sentence contained ideas that would revolutionize Imperial technology. And this, Thompson said, leading them to the recreation deck, is where we spend most of our time. Anyone up for ping pong? We've modified it to use quantum uncertainty for extra challenge. James watched as crew members played games that bent space and time, casually controlling forces that the Empire's best scientists couldn't even measure. Why? He finally asked. Why didn't you conquer us? You clearly could have taken over the Empire any time you wanted. Thompson smiled kindly. Why would we want to? Space is big. Really big. There's room for everyone. We've found it's much more fun to make friends than to conquer people. Besides, conquering is so much work. Do you know how much paperwork is involved? But the Empire's reputation, James started. We'll be just fine, Thompson assured him. Look, you came here expecting to find primitive humans you could easily defeat. Instead, you found friends who can help you improve. Which is better? As if to emphasize his point, Lieutenant Whiskers floated by again, now chasing a small drone that kept phasing in and out of reality. Also, Walker added, we really do make better coffee. Speaking of which, who'd like to learn how to use a French press? The Imperial officers spent the next hour learning the art of coffee making, while their crew received basic lessons in quantum mechanics from Earth's maintenance staff. Through it all, Thompson's words kept echoing in James's mind. Friends, not conquests. Looking around at his officers eagerly learning about both coffee and physics, James realized that maybe, just maybe, the Empire had been going about this all wrong. The humans hadn't just defeated them. They had shown them a better way to exist in the universe. And it all started with a simple lull and a coffee break. 1 month after the coffee incident, as it became known throughout the galaxy, Commander James stood before the Imperial High Command. His hand shook slightly as he held a proper cup of coffee, made with freshly ground beans, of course. You mean to tell us, the High Commander said slowly, that not only did you fail to conquer Earth, but you've enrolled our entire fleet in their educational program. Yes, sir, James replied, taking a sip of his perfectly brewed coffee. And it's the best decision I've ever made. Let me show you something. He pressed a button, and his presentation began. The Imperial flagship, once the pride of their fleet, appeared on the screen. Then, next to it, was the same ship after just 1 month of human upgrades. Our power efficiency is up 300%, James explained. Crew comfort has improved by 500%. And most importantly, he smiled, our coffee quality has improved by 1,000%. The High Command whispered among themselves. One of them raised a hand. But our reputation. Surely the other galaxies will see this as weakness. At that moment, Admiral Thompson's hologram appeared in the room. The humans had given the Empire this communication technology just a week ago. Sorry to interrupt, Thompson said cheerfully, floating in midair. Just thought you might want to see this. He waved his hand, and the view changed to show an Imperial training vessel easily outmaneuvering a group of space pirates. The ship wasn't using weapons. It simply redirected the pirates' attacks back at them, using basic human technology. That's one of your ships, Thompson explained. After just 2 weeks in our basic physics program, the crew leader got an A+ in Ethical Defense Methods 101. A high command stared in amazement. The Imperial ship was moving in ways they had thought impossible, using principles they were only beginning to understand. But this is just the beginning, James added. The humans have offered to help us transform our entire civilization, not as conquerors, but as teachers, as friends. And the cost? Someone asked suspiciously. Thompson's hologram smiled. Just one thing. You have to stop trying to conquer people. It's not very neighborly. Besides, do you know how much paperwork is involved in maintaining an empire through force? It's much easier to make friends. Over the next hour, James and Thompson presented their plan. The empire would gradually shift from conquest to cooperation. Human teachers were already preparing courses in everything from basic physics to advanced coffee appreciation. Think about it, James said to the High Command. We spent centuries trying to rule a galaxy through force. The humans showed us we were living in a technological stone age, and instead of conquering us, they offered to help us grow. Lieutenant Walker's hologram appeared next to Thompson's. We've also prepared a special course just for the High Command, she said. It's called How to Turn Your Empire into a Cooperative Space Federation for Dummies. The course materials include a premium coffee maker. The High Commander looked at his own cup of instant coffee, then at the advanced holograms floating in his chamber, and finally at the images of the improved Imperial ships. Very well, he said at last. We accept Earth's offer of friendship and education. But I have one condition. Yes, Thompson asked. I want one of those anti-gravity cats for my flagship. Thompson laughed. Done. Lieutenant Whiskers actually has kittens who are just finishing their basic quantum physics training. They're very good at gravity manipulation. Must be a cat thing. And so, the mighty Galactic Empire began its transformation. Within a year, their ships were using technology they once thought was magic. Their crews were happier, their systems were more efficient, and their coffee was infinitely better. As for Earth, they simply added Galactic Empire Reformation to their list of successful first contact scenarios, right between teaching quantum physics to space dolphins and explaining internet memes to silicon-based life forms. The galaxy, it turned out, was a much friendlier place when you approached it with a sense of humor and a good cup of coffee.